Folks, a very good evening. Welcome in the ring. Let's fight. So much to bring you up to date with. We're going to be joined by some of our parliamentary colleagues. We're going to be joined by of the one and only Randolph Critchlow in a little bit, and some of, as I said, the members of parliament. Guys, as we come on, we always ask you to share the live stream. As you would notice, my set is different this evening. I'm still at Parliament, quite an eventful day, and we want to bring you guys up to stream with all that has been happening during the course of the day at the National Assembly, which is being housed at the Ortichon Conference Center on the railway embankment at Lilliandale. Lots of information to bring you within the next hour, 45 minutes to an hour. So stay with us, folks who are joining us on Twitter. We're so happy that you could be with us. Folks who are joining us on YouTube, we are happy that you can be with us as well. And we encourage you guys to share the live stream as you come on this evening, as we do every evening. So share the live stream, retweet if you're picking us up on Twitter, on YouTube. Give us a subscribe. We're going to share some of your comments there as well. Thank you all for joining us. And share the live stream, folks. We're going to do the same at our end. We hope you had a good day. Quite an eventful day in the National Assembly. Quite an eventful day in our country. And we're going to bring you some more information on all of these very issues. Great. So we are, again, approaching the number that we want to get to before we start officially, as you know, every evening. And so let me bring on my colleague Randolph Critchlow. And Randolph, as you know, hosts the afternoon rush and has been working very hard in terms of getting you information that concerns the happenings in the National Assembly throughout these budget debates, and now as we examine the estimates, etc. So, Randy, we're going to hold before we start the program proper. Let's hit that magic number, and then we are going to start. Great to see you still at it after so many hours, bringing information to members of the public during the course of the day. As you always say, Randy, valid and credible information we bring before the Guyanese public. And so we are going to hold, we are almost there at that magic number. And as soon as we hit it, we're going to start as to some of the events that transpired, not only nationally, but also nationally within the National Assembly during the course of the day. And you and Nicole have been at the forefront of most of it during the course of the day. Our audience by now has had some snippets and some of the information that has transpired nationally and at the National Assembly. And we want to give them more context to that information. And we're going to have at least 2 or 3 of our members of parliament stopping by this evening. Randy?
Quite eventful, Sheridan. As I get some of the background noise to go down around me, I want to say that I have, this is one of those days that you'll look back on and actually ask yourself, did that actually happen? From Linden, to fighter jets, to Kwame hitting people. It has been one of those unbelievable days.
So let's take our viewers from Linden as we start the program. We learned yesterday that Mr. Small, Rudy Small, the chief executive officer of the Linden Hospital Complex, was removed as a result of those heinous, reprehensible comments that he made concerning our nurses and health workers there at Linden. And then no sooner had that been done, like the signing of the Taiwan deal, it was pulled back, and we saw Mr. Small heading to work this morning, only to be rebuffed by another series of protests by nurses and health workers out of Region 10, in particular Linden.
And I showed that video. I don't know if you have the video lined up, but we can share the video for those persons who are now joining us. Before we get to really unpacking, Sherrod, because I did speak to the regional chair just now, Mr. Darren Adams, and we had a conversation with Mr. Kirill Lorma, also from the Ghana Action Party. He's from Linden there. and they're quite adamant that Linden does not want this man. And it is quite strange to know that after he was given a letter by the
Permanent secretary of the
health
Ministry of Health.
permanent
Yeah.
secretary, how is it that he's still on the job? How is it that he seemed to be reinstated? Those are questions that need to be answered.
Exactly. But we are happy that the understanding solidarity with our nurses and health workers stood their ground this morning and sent him packing from the hospital complex compound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And no sooner were we engaged with that, we learned that F-16 or some manner of military aircrafts were flying over Itteringbank area there in Region 7. Randy?
Yeah, definitely. And it's quite strange here that I'm scouring social media to see if the Ministry of Foreign Affairs would have said anything by now, but I don't see anything coming out from them. I don't know if they're waiting to confirm what it was, but it's such a strange sight to see. And in these tense times, shared when we are, in direct, you know controversy, I want to use that word, with Venezuela, knowing full well that Venezuela are capable, that they have their military would have these sort of planes and stuff. As a Guyanese, you tend to feel scared, but as the leader of the opposition said, look, if we don't want to panic. We don't want people to panic without the information, and we're waiting on those persons who should be bringing the information in to share with us.
Correct. So let's take some of the footage. I think we have this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, there we have it, Randy. Again, that is, I think, the Itteringbank area, Region 7. And I saw, picking up some information coming out of news source, that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs did confirm that
Okay.
the airspace was invaded by these, I think they mentioned two military aircraft. I think they located them as Venezuelan aircraft. And so this is a developing story, and we're going to have additional information for the Guyanese public as it becomes available to us. And you can, as you might imagine, our foreign affairs people at our end, they are working behind the scenes to make sure that, as you always say, we have credible and valid information to disseminate. So we're looking at that as well. I think we have some of the footage too for the members of the public of the protest that transpired at the Linden Hospital Corporation. So let's see if we can get.
Right! Yes! Rudy must go! 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 Right! Rudy must go! Get! Rudy must go! Get! Get!
Yes, Sharon.
Yeah, I think it's an understatement to say that the nurses were livid. It's an understatement. And Rudy did go from the compound, and we want him to go permanently from the Linden Hospital complex. And we want our nurses and health workers in Region 10, Linden, to understand that we stand in solidarity with them. And no sooner was that happening, we had both the flyover and that protest in Linden eclipsed by what was transpiring in the National Assembly. And we know now that our MP, Miss Sarabo-Halley, Tabitha Sarabo-Halley, was assaulted by Kwame McCoy during the sitting of the National Assembly, even though it happened on the periphery of where the sitting is actually happening. But eyewitnesses have confirmed, Tabitha, we have no reason to doubt our MP that this assault did take place. Even though the video footage that was examined don't show us the assault directly, it corroborates exactly what our MP said to us happened. And so we are pressing forward in terms of what comes next with the investigation. The sitting was suspended since the incident happened. As you know, by now we went back into the National Assembly and insisted that an investigation should happen and the sitting must be suspended. The speaker suspended the session for the evening as of a couple minutes ago, and we are again working as to what happens next. And we say to the Guyanese public to stay tuned. We're going to have some more information. I'm reliably informed that the leader of the opposition is going to join us shortly and should be able to offer us some guidance and direction, as he usually does, on this very matter, Randy.
Yeah, Sharon, I take note that the leader of the opposition, when he was on earlier, said there was a meeting between the chief whips and the clerk and the speaker of the assembly, and then of course we heard the update from Natasha Singh Lewis, who was one of the MPs who went to review the video footage along with the chief whip, and it is such a sad place to be reporting and speaking on a matter like this. And I saw the video footage of the opposition MPs leaving the dome, upset and livid, and I could understand the feeling, because as I said this afternoon, we are in a really sad and strange place in this country when the National Assembly could be infiltrated by somebody like Kwame McCoy, and the government of the day would feel comfortable. That is the word I want. They feel comfortable coddling and presenting this individual as their representative. It is a sad state. It's a really sad state for our country, and we have to ask ourselves so many questions. How is it that we've gone to these lows?
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
sunk in these lows.
And Randy, exactly so. It is the Speaker of the National Assembly who has to arrest this situation, because we've been seeing again the lows that every day you come here, you think we can't go to any lower, and then events prove us wrong. So we've been losing laptops, we've been losing tablets. Now is the assault on our MPs. You come here, and as the session starts, it's one invictive from the next, the most lewdest things. One MP just this afternoon was shouting across the house to me about sucking and all kinds of foolishness. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what the National Assembly is sinking to. I could not fathom in my wildest dreams that this is what representing the people of this country at the highest level would entail. The kind of vitriol that you have coming, the kind of debased language that you have coming by some people who hold themselves up to be paragons of virtues and all manner of things. It is quite sad.
Yeah, and to that end, we had Mr. Schumann, who used his budget speech to represent himself in such a manner, or present himself as this paragon of virtue and integrity, talking about how he wouldn't shout. And I'm sure that people of Guyana know that he was, of course, had to be directing his comments to the PPP side, because let me remind you, it was the PPP parliamentarians who came toting bangles, who came toting spliff, who came toting vibrator dildos.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whose remarks to people in the house as if they're stupidity. This is the PPP. That they have been the side of the house that has been debasing.
Yeah.
Debasing.
Yeah.
Right? And it has continued up to a point, and the speaker has failed to arrest the issue, and it has continued now where the Kwame McCoy feels that he can physically assault somebody in Parliament, and there'll be no repercussions.
And Randy, add to that laundry list the fact that Member of Parliament Kemraj Ramjatan was actually videoed by some member of the public who was here coming out of a washroom. You're not even safe in the sanctity of the National Assembly. You're not even safe here. And it is the speaker who has to arrest these issues. But instead, we see a speaker who has a night out with members of the government, right? But yet wants to be perceived as unbiased and fair. I mean, politics is about perception. And when you put yourself out there at a night out with the members of the government, then how do you want people to perceive you, right? The speaker has to come off from that tangent or that road he's on and come back to the business of the people. You hear it is the speaker who generated a list of banned words from the National Assembly, of which riggers is one. And every living day, the speaker can't hear when 33 MPs shouting rigging and rigging and rigging in the National Assembly. But let's Sherry Duncan open his mouth once. Oh, I hear member Duncan could you something. It's madness.
Yeah. But Sherry, I'm going to make this bet now. Right? That the speaker, instead of doing what he's supposed to be doing, scours Facebook, or he has somebody scouring Facebook to see what you are doing, he is going to come to the house next sitting, and he's going to take time out of the busy schedule of the house to say that he saw a post on Sherry Duncan's page with him out having dinner with the government MPs. And he's going to warn against it. This is what he's consumed himself with, trying to present himself as somebody who is fair and unbiased, when the world sees that he is not, and he is consuming himself with matters that he shouldn't. And so the PVP has allowed him. I mean, not allowed him. He has allowed the PVP, so to speak. And they're brazen now. They can call people shitty. As a matter of fact, they want to bring in.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Randy, it was the GCOM part of the estimates that was being examined, and the CEO of GCOM, a professional, was here as part of the team. And as he was leaving, he was being accosted by members of the National Assembly. Can you fathom this? You're serving your country in this capacity. You come from one of the entities to have your estimates examined, right? And you are pummeled by members of the government as you are leaving, called the most atrocious things. That aside, Member of Parliament Tabitha Sarabo-Halley was heading to the washroom at that same time, and they seem now, well, Kwame in particular, to train his attention on her, right? Pointing his phone in her face, hitting her in her face. She was on live saying how her head and neck hurting. You understand me? Women's Day is Monday, International Women's Day. Today, Kwame was taking photographs of the placard about respecting women, right? And talking about domestic violence, right? Hypocrites. That is what they are. And that's what we have been exposing in the National Assembly since we are here. They go in public and say one thing, and then their actions betray all of their intentions. All of their intentions. And that is what has happened here. During lunch, there's a photo a photo op and a photo shoot with them holding all of these lovely banners and placards and so on, celebrating protecting women. But they have a bad track record in terms of the treatment of women. And as you remember, Randy, Kwame was charged and convicted of assault just a few years ago. So he seems to have some proclivity for abuse.
Yeah.
Right.
And let me remind members of the public, as you said, we talk about bad track record. It was very strip and slap that they have among their ranks.
Yeah.
Right? It was Robson Ben who assaulted the female doctor.
Yeah. Right here. Exactly. This building, when it was being used as a National Recount Center, it was right here that assault of the doctor happened, the female doctor, and the doctor subsequently resigned in fear for her life.
Yeah. It is the vice president who was reported abuse of his wife, of his supposedly wife,
And
and he
after that,
went to
Randy,
war.
after that, the very Hatfield Street location of GCOM that they've been talking about for the last 48 hours, it is at that very location that Hanuman said to those young two police women on the step, mark their faces, Irfan.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see where those two police officers are now. Mark their faces, he said, Irfan. When you get into government, they must know their jobs are in jeopardy. And that is the kind of people you have sitting in the National Assembly here, presiding over the affairs of this nation. This is the kind of people that we have.
And I wonder, and you see, I wonder where Priya is at this point in time, or Minister of Social Protection,
Yeah, yeah,
Prasad.
yeah,
I
yeah,
wonder where they are. I wonder where these minister. Where is Onij Waldron? Where is the minister of within the Ministry of Housing? Where are these female ministers
yeah,
now?
yeah.
As,
Randy,
as
I,
go
I
ahead.
want to say to our viewers at this point, we always ask that you share the live stream. If you've never shared this live stream, this is a night to share it and get this information out there. Randy, let us welcome the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Joseph Harman, Member of Parliament. Let us welcome him to the program this evening. Mr. Harman, a very good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much, Sherrod.
Yeah, I know
Change
you've
it.
had a very taxing day, but it's by no means anything that you aren't accustomed to. Just frame the day because so many things has happened for the Guyanese public.
Sherrod, this has been an extremely busy day. It's a day which I believe will go down in the history of this country, where violence against women are concerned. I just want to go back a little bit because I did about 3 or 4 interviews during the course of the day. The first, of course, had to do with the reports which we were receiving that there were military aircraft flying over certain parts of our hinterland at a low level. We actually called for calm in the country because several persons were calling in very anxious about these the reports which were taking place. And I think it was some hours later that the government came out to issue a statement on this matter. We basically said that on issues of territorial integrity and sovereignty of this country, that we are prepared to take any reasonable step that may be necessary working with the regime. So what surprised us during the course of today was that at no point in time did they reach out to us to say, look, we have a situation and could we consult? So that in itself, in my view, was one of the classic failures of this administration. When the national interest is at stake, that they would seek to take a partisan position by just relying on their own initiatives. So I had to make a statement on this matter, and I asserted our position that we are always prepared to act within the national interest. Well, subsequently, I see a report coming out which confirmed what people believed to be true, that these were Venezuelan military aircraft flying at a low level over an area in the hinterland called Etteringbang. But certainly it is not enough for the ministry to just say that. They have to take some other form action. And I trust that during the course of tomorrow or so, we'll get a clear indication from them what in fact they are doing about that. Then, of course, I had to speak on the situation at Linden with the CEO that was fired and then ostensibly reinstated. But certainly he was not reinstated. The people at Linden did not accept that position. And I think he understands quite clearly. I said at that point in time too, that we stood in support of the nurses or the frontline workers in Linden because they were the people who are putting their lives on the line every day as we fight in this pandemic, this COVID pandemic. So it was, in our view, an absurdity for a gentleman, well, I should call him gentleman, for Mr. Small, to be making statements as he did, describing our nurses in a manner that basically indicates that they had a licentious lifestyle. And that really did not go down well. It hasn't gone down well with me. It hasn't gone down well with the opposition. And I'm sure it hasn't gone down well with Guyana and the people at large. So Mr. Small must know that he is not an accepted person in that community. But worse still, the fact that the government has actually embraced his behavior by not condemning it is the travesty. That is a travesty. And this is the same kind of travesty which played out in the National Assembly here this afternoon, where very shortly after, our female MPs, along with government female MPs, signed on to a declaration about violence against women in preparation for International Women's Day on the 8th. And very shortly after that, Mr. McCoy, who has had a history of this kind of behavior, felt that it was good enough for him having abused Mr. Lowenfield, who came here to deal with the constitutional agencies that we were dealing with in the National Assembly. He felt it was okay to abuse him and thereafter turn his anger onto MP Tabitha Sarabo-Halley. So that certainly was the trigger for certain courses of action which were taken by us in the National Assembly, and a course of action which we will continue to take until such time that there is a resolution to this matter. I have called on citizens all across this country. I've called on women's organizations. I've called on organizations all across to condemn this action by Kwame McCoy, condemn the behavior of the PPP for embracing that kind of behavior, that kind of violence against women, and to show their condemnation of it by taking certain decisive actions, which we will speak about at some later stage. Thank you.
Mr. Harman, I know tomorrow is a historic day in many sense, in a lot of sense. We have, for instance, was a year ago, you had the storming of GCOM, what the Americans call an insurrection of the GCOM Hatfield Street location. And incidentally, today, as we examine the GCOM budget, we realize that there is no money set aside for house-to-house registration for the upcoming local government election. Talk to us a little bit about that, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. Because tomorrow would mark another day in infamy of this country, where people who started the disruption of the March 2020 elections are now proclaiming themselves to be the champions of democracy. The people who stormed the Guyana Elections Commission office on Hatfield Street. Similar to what happened on the 6th of January in the United States of America. And I've drawn that parallel because those persons who did what they did, they were trying to achieve the same result as the PPP leadership are trying to achieve here. And they find someone, most of them find themselves before the court now and are under in some form of investigation. But these ones find themselves in the parliament and trying to make statements to the effect to make people feel that we ought to be afraid of what they're saying, that calling us riggers and all of that. They are the ones. This is where it all occurred. We saw all of it here in this conference center. We saw all of it here at the recount. And so they are trying to now create a narrative and using the connections which they have in the media to reinforce that false narrative about what happened after the 2nd of March in this country. But it will not stick because people were there. People saw for themselves what happened when they opened those boxes. They saw the 11,500 ballots in ballot boxes that had no statutory documents inside it. They saw the number of persons who were dead and still voted. They had the death certificates. They were there when boxes that were opened with ballots from one district being cast in another district. So they were there, they saw all of that. Hundreds of people saw it. Many of my MPs who are in here were actually there working, and this is why they can never accept that people can tell them and call them these funny names that they're trying to call them, because they saw it for themselves. It is not as if somebody tells you this, they experienced it. And so the 4th of March will always be remembered as a day when we started to slide into this dictatorship that we have right now. It started then, and then it went on to the violence which was unleashed on the East Coast and at Bath Settlement, where those school children, innocent school children, who were traveling, bus was actually damaged, injuring school children, policemen being chased out of communities with cutlasses, injured, all at the behest of the PPP. And throughout all of this, not a single finger could be pointed at the AP and the AFC to say that we were engaged in anything, much less that level of violence for which these folks did not answer. So the 4th of March is a day that we will remember. It's a day that we will have to recognize as a day when democracy took a hit. And so all of these persons who are looking to be conferred with this bogus award that AFNL is now creating, they know if they put that thing around their neck, it can burn them. It's going to burn them because it is going to be a conferment on an activity that was fraught with all kinds of illegalities. Our 2 petitions in the court will prove it. And so I'm warning anybody, I'm telling people, don't accept that award. Don't accept it. It's going to be a blotch, a stain on you. It's going to be a stain on you. Many of the persons you will see who call themselves the guardians of democracy, every day now as we conduct the examination of these estimates, you're getting all of this story coming out. The National Security Advisor, with his big $700 and something thousand a month salary and all kinds of benefits, and hasn't said a word about the worsening security situation in this country over all of these months. The other gentleman who sits as a deputy speaker that draws down almost $1 million a month from the various appointments he's been given. So these are the guardians of democracy who call themselves that. But they're ones who are trying to fill their pockets. And that is the intention in the first instance. To draw down everybody who want to get oil contract, want to form companies that call it local content partners. And all of them, many of them, some of them sit right here in the parliament. Right here in the parliament, but if it's not the cousin, the company naming, it's not an auntie, it's not a wife, it's not a brother or somebody, but in some way, what is developing here in Guyana, in the upstream benefits of oil and gas, is a very small clique of what I will call the nouveau riche of Guyana, that's benefiting on local content arrangement on the backs of the bulk of the Guyanese people who continue to suffer because of what is taking place. In spite of all of the prosperity, we are still in a state many of us, many of the people in this country are still in a state of poverty.
Mr. Harman, I've had persons call me personally who have said that we are going to mark this day of infamy tomorrow, this day of insurrection, by coming out and letting our voice be heard, at whichever GCOM location across the country, that we're tired of this nonsense. We're tired of our nurses being treated a certain way. We are tired of, the high-handedness of this government. We are not going to wait 5 years. We're going to come out tomorrow and mark this day of infamy and insurrection, this day in which we saw the hidden hand of foreign actors in our electoral process in front of whatever GCOM location we are closest to tomorrow. And I'm going to be out there, I can tell you, in front of GCOM personally, in here in Georgetown. Might you be gracing your presence with, at one of these gatherings?
Certainly, Sherrod. I certainly will do so. And I encourage people to display and to come out in front of these election commission facilities and let them understand that what has happened on the 4th of March is wrong, and the people who perpetrated that, they are now driving around with cars and sirens and police escorts and all of that, while they continue to be suffering in this country. They know that the votes which put those persons in, that it was a wrong thing to happen. And so I am encouraging them, I'm encouraging everybody to come out. Come out and show that you're mad about what has happened and that you're prepared to stand up in solidarity with your members of parliament, with your political parties, with the coalition. Stand firm with us on this matter and let the PVP understand that this is not something that we are going to sweep under the carpet.
Mr. Harman, I also want to note on that point that we have a lot of these guards getting some super salaries. These are executive, expensive guards getting some super salary. Mr. Nigel Hines, I would characterize as used to be one such a guard. He is now saying, I want to quote something that he said recently. He said, the behavior of the PVP since regaining power in August 2020 with the goodwill of the global community is a case in point. Their continuing assault on the economic well-being of supporters of the opposition justifies the rigging of the election. And he went on to talk, to really and truly wail into this government and talk about the atrocities and the ethnic violations that are being perpetuated against members of the opposition and supporters. So apparently some of these guardians are waking up. Thankfully.
Yes. Some are waking up. But of course, while I think it's a good letter from Mr. Hines, the narrative, in my view, it needs to be corrected because there's no evidence of us rigging anything. There's no such evidence. There's no such evidence of President Granger holding on to power. That, of course, is a scenario, that is a narrative which was always within the PVP and the group which supported it. But put that aside, I think the point that Mr. Hines is making now is that the ethnic discrimination, the marginalization that is taking place in this country is unacceptable and that something needs to be done about it. I spoke about this issue in my budget speech, and I gave 8 points on which I believe we should agree for this country to move forward in peace and tranquility. Failing which, we will continue to slide into an abyss that is uncomfortable for all of us as a people.
Leader of the opposition, Mr. Harman, we have a press statement coming out of the fraudulent Kwame McCoy. He is saying that he admits to a verbal confrontation with MP Halley and also as a verbal confrontation with Mr. Keith Lowenfield as he left GCOM after the consideration of the estimates for GCOM, as he left the National Assembly, but he denies this assault.
Well, this is a good start. At least he started off by saying there was nothing. Now to admit, because what he's saying there, it is some of the evidence which I believe came out on the cameras. He can't fight that. So he's now prepared to admit about a verbal. We will get to the point of physical very shortly. And when we get to that point, certain things will have to happen. We as MPs, we are going to lay out certain demands, and those demands must be met in relation to him. Even verbally assaulting, as he seems to be admitting here, is wrong. Even verbally assaulting is wrong. So I think he's getting it, he's moving in the right direction to an admission at some point that I moved beyond verbal and I became physical. It's getting there.
Mr. Harman, I know you have a heavy night ahead of you. I think there's a press conference that you're hosting a little later on in the evening. So I want to let you go to prepare for that. But as I let you go, sir, with the view that Monday is International Women's Day, you have all of this atrocity happening, whether it's at Linden with the nurses and health workers or our female MPs being abused in this man in the National Assembly. What do you say to the women of this country?
I say to the women of this country that the APNU-ASC coalition respects you, we support you, we work with you, we see you as equal partners in the development of this country. And so even in our National Assembly where there is a stipulation about women participation, we've actually gone beyond that. And we believe that for the country to develop, we must have equal partnership with our women folk. And that means moving beyond this point of, as there seemed to be the want of the PPP, to treat our women folk like they are property or that they're still chattel, as used to happen in the old days since 1912 and those times. I don't think they've graduated to the point of accepting that we can sit around the table and women, in fact, women all around the world now, if you look at the boardrooms, you look at all of what is happening, is a major change that's taking place, major change in the world. And so it is foolhardy for any country, any society to believe that you can not treat women as equals and get away with it. I believe in Guyana that because we're a small society, when you look at the population of women, you look at the fact that women carry an unequal burden in the development of our country. They are the ones who actually still go to work like the men, but at the same time, they have to do all of the mathematics at home. They have to do the budget. They got to look after, they have to ensure that their children are brought up in a certain way. When they get home, they have to make sure that their homework and everything is done. And at the same time, still got to come and deal with us men after all of that, while they went to go to work as well. So I believe that we have to hold our women in higher esteem, And so any person who believes that he can unleash any form of violence, be it physical or verbal, he is living in a different era. Certainly not in 2021. This is not a time when you can behave in that way and get away with it. So I want to say, if I don't have the opportunity again before that, to say to our women folk, a happy International Women's Day, that we continue to support you, we continue to push you up, to hold you up in the light in which you should be seen. You are the ones, you are the real guardians of our democracy. You are the real guardians of our democracy. Look and see what is happening all across Guyana and across the world. The women are the ones who actually carry the fight. Today, in the parliament, one of our women was assaulted, but you see where the action was taking place. The women. And so I respect, I honor, and I cherish our women folk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leader of the Opposition, Joseph Harman, Member of Parliament, for stopping by in the ring this evening and briefing us on these many matters and offering us guidance. See you on the front lines tomorrow, sir.
Thank you. I'll be there.
Great. We're going to bring back my colleague Randy now to join us and um, touch on some other issues. Randy,
I have to go and
leader of the
dress.
opposition, again walking us through several substantive issues of the day, from the flyover by the Venezuelan military to the nurses' protest of Mr. Small at Linden, to the what has happened, transpired in the National Assembly with the assault of our member of parliament, our sister, our friend, uh, Tabitha Sarabo-Halley. There is going to be some protests tomorrow throughout the country. We know that folks have been calling me personally back and forth about what's happening and about showing some resolve at GCOM, that this day of infamy, this day of insurrection cannot go unnoticed. This day when we saw the hidden hand of foreign powers in our electoral system, and we say, come stand with us. I've been saying to our Facebook friends and supporters that we have to move beyond just coming and consume the information to action. And this is an area where you can be of benefit. And we know some persons have been saying that they'll be outside GCOM as early as 10 in the morning, making their voice heard. This is part of your democratic right and privilege. It's part of your democratic right and privilege, right? And I'll be out there. I'll be representing in the National Assembly, and I will find some time very early in the morning to be out there with my placard. You all know I don't just talk. I'm going to go there, right? We have to do what we have to do, and this government can do, this fraudulent, illegitimate government can do what they have to do, Randy. That is where we are this evening.
Yeah. And I do believe, Sher, that what you say is important. We have many keyboard warriors, like we call them, but it is time persons step out from behind the keyboard and social media warriors and let their voices be heard. Sher, as I say that, you would believe if you look at conventional media. If you look at the PPP aligned media houses and press houses, that we had any commotion in the country for the day, right? We had flyover, we had the nurses protesting, we had Kwame assaulting a member of the opposition. If you look at it, and I shared a video here. I want to show the headline from DPI. I want to show the headline from DPI there. If you may share that video, just to give you an idea. Share, you got a little dark. GPL or what?
I think so. I think it's GPL. You know, all kinds of things happen here at the National Assembly. You lose power, you lose internet, all kinds of madness, right?
But we're seeing you do
at work. The fraudulent, illegal PPP government. We prepared for anything, though.
Yeah, what we're seeing you. What I was saying, if you look at the PPP aligned media, you wouldn't know that all of these things happen. It was such an eventful day at Parliament. But you would see headlines like the one I shared there from DPI if you would share that video. Right?
Yeah.
But you would see this. This is a dishonest media that we see. It's just propaganda.
Yeah.
Right? If we look at this, this is. Go ahead.
No, I was going to add to that, and that is why, fraudulent, illegal Kwame has put out this piece of tripe, right, stating that there was no altercation, but there's a God, right? There's a God. And folks, tomorrow, we are going to be out there. We are going to be making our voices heard. This day of infamy and insurrection will not go unnoticed. All right. And what Kwame McCoy tried to do to one of our MPs will not go unanswered. Will not go unanswered.
Definitely.
Right? And
we'll be out there. We'll be out there.
People alone there when first bell ring. You understand me? And we're going to make life difficult for Kwame McCoy.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what's going to happen.
The fact that Kwame sitting in Parliament is a vomit-inducing thought. First of all,
people.
Exactly.
It's an affront to the Guyanese people. That is what is happening, folks. Unfortunately, we're out of time. We want to thank you guys for joining our special report. Randy, I don't know if you want to add in anything else there.
I think the leader of the opposition's press conference is going to be at 9.
Yeah.
We'll continue to bring you, and we'll be definitely coming live from wherever we are on the road tomorrow as we make our voices heard.
Yeah, yeah. And folks, I think 4 persons are going to be gathering at GCOM for 10. Come out your house. You understand me? You know what has been happening. You have seen the madness, the day of infamy and insurrection, and you have seen what the last 6 months gives. Come and lend your voice for something worthwhile, right? And let's get off of Facebook and just being social media activists. Come out tomorrow, folks. Wherever you are, come out. Find out what is happening and come out. I am going to be out there as early as 10 in the morning with a placard. And the leader of the opposition said he's going to be out there as well. And I know members of the opposition, members of parliament are going to be out there, and other citizens. Come out, folks. Come out. Last word to you,
right.
Randy.
I'll be there. That's all I have to say. We have to, the saying enough is enough at some point in time, and the fact that this government feels so emboldened to put Kwame there to do these foolishness, and he feels that he can get away with such madness, and it's just an affront to the guy and his people. And I'll be there.
Exactly, folks. Remember to sanitize, wear your mask, social distance. COVID is real. Join us tomorrow and join the press conference just after the program. Thanks for joining. Stay well.